Hey, Mike. Happy Tuesday. How are you?
I'm swell, Bob. How you doing on this fine Tuesday?
I'm good. I'm good. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Pop Culture SquadCast Live. We are here with you on Tuesday, the eve of San Diego Comic-Con, and it's a nice. It was a nice day today in Maryland. I don't know, like it wasn't too hot at any point. There were moments of cool summer breeze. It was a very nice day. I can't complain about it.
It was a very nice day up here in the American Netherlands as well, and we even went like food shopping. That's how nice a day it was. Hey, Sherry.
I like food shopping.
It's the funniest thing to do, to just look at the stuff. I was going to say shit, but I eat some of that. And point and go like, how many Oreos can they make?
Well, Johns can eat a lot. I can make a lot. You need them all. Let's talk about some stuff. We have a couple of guests on, and we're going to talk about their brand new comic that's coming out in 2 weeks. Not this week, not next week, week after.
Isn't that
from the brand new company Panick Entertainment, which we've been talking about for about a year because it was a year ago that they got announced at San Diego, and their first comic is coming out, and we're going to have the writers on shortly. They're both here. We're going to get to some stuff, and we'll bring them in. You wrote a piece yesterday on popculturesquad.com. People, please go check it out. About the announcement of the end of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Yes. And then they all upstaged me on TV.
Yes, well,
between the Daily Show and Colbert, it was an amazing night.
I haven't seen the Daily Show one. I've seen some of the Colbert stuff.
The Daily Show stuff will kill you.
I'm sure.
One thing, you probably are aware of this, but maybe some of you folks are not. This episode last night of The Daily Show was the first and thus far only episode to be rated T.A.M.A. Well, they did not have the regular TV PG rating on this specific episode because they said and sang a nasty word an awful lot, very appropriately.
Well, I'm fine with that. Listen, I've enjoyed Stephen Colbert. I mean, you've met him, right? You've
yeah, a couple times.
He comes from good Chicago. Well, he's from South Carolina, but he was brought up in the world of entertainment in Chicago.
He also lived a couple blocks from me in Evanston when he was Northwestern University.
But the thing is, he's a brilliant comedian. I think he really has a fantastic sense of timing and use of words. And I've enjoyed watching him for years, particularly, when I need someone to skewer a certain political actor. And I think acting is a good word there. But it's been fun. It's been entertaining, and it is. That's what entertainment is. It is satire. It is meant to draw a light to things, and the overall march towards autocracy and just mean-spirited rhetoric. It just continues on, and this is another example of it. It gives me pause about the upcoming Skydance merger and what that will mean for things. How much Larry's going to be involved, which apparently seems to be a lot.
Oh, I'm not sure there's much difference between Ellison and his son. They're both big Trump fans. Larry has history with Trump.
Yes, I understand.
And
It's
now
upsetting.
the latest Shell game, and it's beautiful to watch. Now Trump is accusing Obama of treason and has ordered the Justice Department to look into that.
It's nonsense. This is nonsense. I highly recommend people going to popculturesquad.com and reading Mike's article about Brainiac on Banjo from yesterday. I really enjoyed it. I'm disappointed also, besides the Trumpiness of this entire story, which I really don't want to get into because he pisses me off, but um, the loss of the Late Show, which has been, an institution since David Letterman left NBC and started it,
Mhm.
and had such a long run. It's interestingly disappointing. It's interesting because as I was running through some stuff for San Diego Comic Con, which we'll get to in a second, I ran across Amazing Spider-Man number 50, which for all those people out there is the Spider-Man No More cover.
Right.
You know that book has the first appearance of Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon in the Marvel Universe.
No, I didn't realize that.
These are the things you find when you start doing research in comic books. But
Well, Steve Allen, the original Tonight Show host, preceded them all by appearing in the Superman newspaper comic strip in the
there you go.
50s. Because Steve Allen and Clark Kent looked alike.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve Allen,
it was a good skit.
I mean, you put glasses on George Reeves, you could get that.
They had a TV show where they did that. That was pretty cool.
That's cool.
My sister loved it. It was up against Bugs Bunny, so she and I would fight over who got to watch what. That was 1,000 years ago.
Thanks for listening to that, folks. We do touch on some pop culture newsy TV things at times, and that's one of the things that kind of hit our radar, and we want to share our thoughts. The other thing I want to talk about, you want to talk about this is a Mike time to talk. You apparently are in possession of this. You can. Is it this? Is that it? Oh, you have a different cover?
I have a different cover.
Oh. Well, this is the Samurai graphic art of Dennis Cowan. Let me get your cover up there. Hang on. Let's get your cover in there. Let's
okay.
Hey, ooh, that is nice.
That is a nice cover. It's really wonderful. Also, my fabulous words are in this as well.
And that's is this available for purchase places?
It is supposed to be. Yes, I think. I mean, I'm not behind it, but the folks who did, the guy who wrote it, nice guy, Michael, was kind enough to send me this copy, and yes. I'm kind enough to say thank you to him on the SquadCast. Well, Dennis and I go back to your Gimel. I love Dennis. I love his work, but I love him personally, and it is wonderful to see how amazing his audience has grown in the last 35 years. Just amazing.
One of the things I love about Dennis Cowan, I love him as a person. I love him as an artist. One of the things that people don't know is how much he has had an impact on subsequent artists, both inspirationally and instructionally. Him and Michael worked together, and created, brought people together to get them to learn how to do things. I know that, for example, one of his collaborators today, up to this day, Chris Sotomayor, got started in comics because he ran into Dennis Cowan in D'Agostino's when he was working there and said, "Hey, you're Dennis Cowan," and he's like, "Hey, come over here, and we'll teach you how to do stuff." And that's why we have Chris Sotomayor in the books.
Yeah, that's a
and
great
that's the
story.
kind of person he is. So,
one of the things I told Dennis right when the question was a certified hit. I mean, we knew we weren't going to get canceled at any point in the immediate future. And it was really catching on. And I told him that he was going to start getting a lot more convention appearance requests, which he already had. And I said, it's going to be a little interesting because you're a much bigger role model now than you think you are.
Mm.
And he looked at me like, I just said something remarkably ununderstandable. And I said, dude, when you're out at a convention, they know you're black. We don't say that in our credits.
Yep.
So all of these kids are going to be looking at you who've already looked at your work and loved it. And they're going to say, I want to do that for a living too.
Yeah. What did he think about that?
That's our job. I've said that before on the SquadCast.
Oh,
our job is to prime the pump, to keep the pump primed.
Well, what was his reaction to that?
Disbelief. Well, sure. It's like a guy who's sits alone in a room with a drawing board for at least 23 hours a day.
Yeah.
is being told that now all of a sudden he's going to be an educational force and a folk hero.
Which he is.
Which he is. Oh my God, yes. Well, I really love Dennis as a friend. I love him as an artist. And I'm so happy for him. And this book is magnificent. I haven't read it all yet, but I have looked at the pictures.
Well, that's what comics are good for.
That's right. Right.
So look for that book where you can find it. It's going to be great. We need to move forward because we do have we have some guests that we want to get to, and we have a bunch of stuff that we want to get to before that. Today, there was some sad news that happened in pop culture, and we're going to take a minute to remember Ozzy Osbourne. If you don't know who he is, his name is John Osbourne. He was 76. He was the front man to Black Sabbath and subsequently had his own solo career after that. In my opinion, as a middle-aged man in America, you really can't tell the story of rock and roll without Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath. They did something that was very special that inspired, dozens, if not hundreds of bands after them. And they made some really amazing music, and he just continued to as a solo. I mean, you can't listen to, television for, more than 3 hours without catching some sort of Ozzy Osbourne lick somewhere in a commercial or something.
That's true. That's very true.
You have some experience with him, I think.
I met him at backstage at one of the most beautiful venues in the world, the Auditorium Theater in Chicago, Louis Hall place, and goes back to the 1890s. I was working with a band called Mountain Bus, a local band, and they were very good. They were sort of a Grateful Dead style jam band. So we're talking around 1972. And they opened for Ozzy and the group at the Auditorium Theater. So backstage, I was hanging out with the group, and Black Sabbath shows up, and they're hanging out. And they're being very polite and welcoming their opening act. And Ozzy and I got into a conversation, if we can really call it a conversation.
Okay.
I'm not quite positive it was in any language I truly understood. Okay. But it was fun. And he he didn't spit blood on me, so it's cool.
Yeah. Like I said, he was not a, he's a human who lived a life full of mistakes and successes, and but again, he's part of the culture that we live in, and the culture that we live in, takes shape from everything that came before it, which he is a huge influence on. And it's
Absolutely. And his life story reads like a season of the Twilight Zone.
sure. He's he For those who don't know, he has been ill. He has been I think he has Parkinson's, and he's been in declining health for years. There was if you don't also know, there was a huge concert 2 weeks ago, where Black Sabbath got back together and a bunch of bands came and played. And from all the things I'd heard about it was a fantastic show, and he was able to have his last performance. That was what it was billed as, and he
Yeah.
was there. I think this picture is from that. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, it's amazing. The timing is amazing. But, that's how you go out. In show business, that's the way to do it.
Can't write it any better.
Can't write it any better. Ozzy he had an amazing career and a swell off-stage presence.
Yeah, absolutely. We got one more thing, and we're going to bring on our guests because they've been so patient. And that is that, as I mentioned to you earlier, when we're done with this show, I have to finish a couple of little bit of packing, and then I'm off to California. And this is what I'm going to be doing on Thursday. I'm going to be on a panel at 5:30 talking about comic book covers with Chip Kidd, Will Dennis, Jen King, Cully Hamner, and our good friend Ed Cato. It is my first time in San Diego, and I am a little bit scatterbrained. I've been trying to
wait till you get
done.
back.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to get through it. Like, I'm trying to. I look through the schedule to figure out what to do while I'm there, and I think, and it took me a couple of hours to go through the 4 days. And I don't think there's any hour that I don't want to be at 2 or 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what I'm going to do. Anyway,
they have a Warren Kremer panel.
They have a what?
Warren Kremer, the Harvey Comics artist. Brilliant, yes. Undervalued, brilliant piece of comics history. And I would do something that I haven't done in San Diego in 30 years, maybe, which is actually go to a panel that I can get into and wasn't on. Because if you're on the panel, you can get in. Yeah. But this, I think I could probably get in because I know the people on the panel, and I could probably. So if I'd known about that, I still wouldn't have gone, because going across country is a major pain in the ass for me. But I would have thought about it. I love San Diego. I love seeing my friends. You never see your friends in San Diego. You wave at them and mumble a few things. A friend of mine, who may not be a friend anymore, I'm not sure, referred to San Diego as a clusterfuck.
Well,
and that's almost perfect. He said this maybe 20 years ago, and it still is.
Well, listen, I am planning on hitting ground tomorrow in San Diego around 11:20 local time, and I don't plan on stopping until I get back to the airport on Sunday. I know that I'm getting there. I got to figure out how to get to the hotel and then go from there. And the last thing I'm gonna do is go to the Jules Pfeiffer panel on Sunday, and see Karen, give her a hug, and run to the airport. That's my Um,
I think that's great. I really envy you in terms of it being your first time.
yeah,
It's a wonderful experience until your age catches up with your body.
I'm hoping I'm still young enough. I don't know, but I'm
I don't know.
hoping we're
Well,
gonna
let's
find
see.
out. All right. We thank you everybody for being here. Thanks for indulging us with the things that we needed to talk about. We want to keep everybody informed, and we want to make sure that everybody has enough time to get here. But we have some guests. We have a pair of writers who are, as I said earlier in the show, the writers of the first new published book from Panick Entertainment, who we've been talking about for a year now. We're super excited about them. We're happy to have them on to talk about their new comic, T.A.M.A. And I've read it. I'm looking forward to talking to them about it. If you don't know, well, I'm going to save that for a minute. Let's get them in the show. We're happy to welcome in to the show Adam Schlagman and Doug Pasko.
Hey
Hello,
there.
gentlemen. Adam, you're good.
Yeah, sorry. Wow, guys, that
Good
was
evening, gentlemen.
quite the intro video. I was not expecting that.
Well, we'd like to get people, remind them what they've done and what got them here. So, welcome. We're excited about T.A.M.A. I'm going to give the folks who are watching and listening a little bit. This is the solicit. It says the virtual pet that wants to kill them all. Panic Entertainment unleashes its debut titled T.A.M.A. We all had them, virtual pets like Tamagotchis, Neopets, and Digimon. But what if, after years of neglect, one returned for revenge? When a grieving, lonely teen stumbles upon an old virtual pet system, he finds comfort. But when gruesome deaths begin to follow, he wonders, could his digital companion be responsible? T.A.M.A. mixes the nostalgia of virtual pets with the generational phenomenon of Pokemon and terror. As far as I added that last bit. Congratulations on the book. First, we're excited about it for you guys. What? How long has this been rolling around between you guys? Like, how long have you been building on this story?
Adam, it's been like almost 2 years now, hasn't it?
I think
Almost.
so. Yeah, I feel like we probably finished actually writing all 6 issues. It might be close to a year ago.
Okay. Where did this idea come from? Like, how did you guys decide this was something that you wanted to tell? Because I mean, it's an interesting story. I don't know. It's a little terrifying.
I'll let Adam start with that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it all just started was like, what if your virtual pet came back for revenge? Because we were just talking often we'll go to the local Starbucks over here and write together, but we were just chatting over there, and and I know Doug has a fear of his old Furby, but I have a big love for Pokemon. So does my son, and then obviously Tamagotchis were these things that they was giant fad right back in the day that everybody had them, and then people just lost interest at some point and tossed them in the closet, stopped feeding them, stopped paying attention to them. So it seemed like a pretty fun idea.
It is a fun idea, and it's an idea that I think I was referencing Twilight Zone before. That I think if they were to bring the show back, and they will, that would make for a great story right now. But it would also make for a good movie. I am curious though as to the publishing company, because this is the first work of a publishing company that we have been talking about for a while here. And it's got a great name and some really experienced people behind it. What's it all about? Why is it in existence, and what are you doing for them after that? After this book?
Yeah. So
No pressure.
I'll go even one step further back. So back in the day, probably been over 20 years now. I actually worked with Chris Longo, who's the publisher over at Panick Entertainment. We worked together at DC Comics in the advertising department, actually. So
Really?
Chris's focus there was a lot of it was creating custom comics. So he shepherded and led the Bionicle series, which I believe ran over 100 issues or something, which was with Lego, of course. And then from there I went onto the editorial side. So I was an editor on the comics at DC for about 6-7 years. Worked on Blackest Night, which is my favorite project over there that I was on. And then I did film development for DC out in Los Angeles afterwards for a while. And then from there, Doug and I came together and started creating some ideas and stuff that we wanted to pitch around. And so I had heard that Chris was forming this company, and so I went to him and pitched him this idea, and he loved it so much I wanted to make it. And then he was like, "Hey, why don't you actually just be part of the company? Like, if you're looking to do something else as well, like, why don't you you could be head of studio and help shepherd these things to film, TV, animation, video games, etc." And so I was like, let's do it. It can't be much more exciting than starting something from the ground up and building a whole new company. It's scary, but it's also really, really creatively fulfilling, obviously.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Both companies.
And I really like the focus too. It's not a comic company that's just going to publish any old type of comic. It's very focused on horror and dark sci-fi, which are two like perfectly loves of mine. So it was a very good fit from that perspective as well.
Yeah, and I felt like with the state of the industry and so many different companies and whatnot, it felt like we needed a true brand, something that we can get behind that differentiates us from everyone else, and by being strictly horror and dark sci-fi, and with such a great name like Panick Entertainment, it just made sense.
It does, and having an imprint dedicated to a fairly broad genre, but nonetheless a very specific genre, is a logical idea. But horror comics have been selling very well lately. We've got a lot of good writers in particular out there, and it kind of feels like, okay, this is the trend for the moment. What do you guys do being a horror publisher when the trend kind of fades a bit? Because they come back up and down, like 3D comics. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah.
And I think one of the things we're trying to do is making sure that all the books feel different. So it's not, and like you said, like the horror is so broad. So you can have thrillers, suspense. Like ours is more like pop culture, which is very different than the other two books in our launch line is Black Diamond, which follows a family that's on a Nordic ski trip, and their child is kidnapped by this cult, and the cult is sacrificing children to ensure that the snow comes so that the resort can stay active. And so then they challenge this couple. They say, hey, if you bring us another child, we'll give you yours back. So the big thing there is, would you kidnap another kid to save your own? And so it's a completely different story.
Sure you would.
And then Savager is alien based, right? That's the next one.
Yeah, so Savager is like a Cthulhu meets Mad Max. It's a post-apocalyptic story where the Earth is lost. These Cthulhu creatures have taken over, and they're inhabiting all of the humans on Earth. And except there's this one named Savager who has this bond, sort of like Venom or Spawn, where where the creature's inside, but he still can control his own body. And so they together, he goes around seeking revenge, murdering all the other creatures because humanity lost. Until, of course, one day he discovers there's this settlement of humans, and we'll need to save them.
I agree with what Mike said. I mean, it's important, again, all of these all of the new companies that were announced last year that are finally hitting the ground right now, and we're so excited about. Hopefully, we'll have even more things coming out of San Diego. But it sounds great. One of the things I'm curious about for you guys is Adam, it's the first time in a long time that you're writing a comic, and Doug's your first comics, writing as opposed to being in film and stuff like that. What was that experience like, both writing together and how did it come back about? Because comics are stories. Everybody's telling a story, but it's a different medium than film. What was that like for you guys?
Well, for me, like you just mentioned, I was brand new to the comic space, so Adam was really showing me the ropes on that. And all of my storytelling in the past has been similar genres. I did some horror movies, fantasy, medieval stuff, and I was always bound, but you had to bind the story based on the budget, and we didn't have a lot of money for a lot of things, film and television. And I was so excited to write something where the budget wasn't even on the radar. It's like, no, this, I can do whatever we want in a comic book. And that was fantastic. But the challenges for me was learning how to panel it and tell a story, because the stuff's not moving on the page. You have to sort of imply things that have happened from panel to panel. And it was just it's an interesting new thing that I had to learn. And it was pretty exciting for me. So I've had nothing but a great time in this. And Adam's been a fantastic mentor for that.
I'm sorry, Ed.
No, you go, Mike. Sorry.
It's a very interesting and specific skill set to be a comics writer, because you're not an artist, or at least you're not being an artist in this particular case, but you have to think visually. It's a visual medium. And literally a lot over the last 85 years, a lot of writers came from, other media, primarily prose and short stories, to write comics to make a little extra money. And they were terrible at it because they couldn't think visually. The original folks who put together this medium, they had to figure it out for themselves. And those people have just about all died off by now. It didn't exist at all 100 years ago. So, Doug, I appreciate what you have gone through to be involved in this medium. It's interesting to me because you did it because you wanted to. You wanted to tell a story in this medium, and that's what we need.
Yeah. It's a great thing. Like as I read the book and issue 1, when I was finished with it, I'm like, I thought about the fact that you guys coming from film and not having a budget, and how you can do whatever you wanted in this book, because there's a lot of technological stuff which would be very expensive to put on film if you wanted to do it the way you did. And I thought, man, that had to be so freeing for you. I tell this story a lot. I had a conversation. It's not my story, but there's another publisher out there who the reason that comic publishing company exists is because someone told them that they can't do what they wanted to do in film. It's not a comic book. And they said, well, you know what, it is. And then they made a comic book company because their budget wasn't working for them. So,
back in the 70s, when I was during my first tenure at DC, I was telling every person who would listen, every media outlet who would listen, that comics is an effective storytelling medium because we can do stuff that you can't do in the movies. We could establish a universe, populate the universe, make it go bad, and destroy that universe all within 3 pages, if that is what the story requires. And back in those days, way back in the 70s, they couldn't afford to do that in a movie. I mean, Star Wars, the first Star Wars movie, is a great film. There's no question about that. But it was 50 years ago. Look at what's happened since.
You're right.
I want to pivot a little bit back to the story of T.A.M.A. So we're introduced to a young boy, he's a high schooler who's definitely feeling neglected, definitely in a place where he could use some attention, and he discovers this. Well, basically, he does what he's not supposed to do, and then discovers a this digital, pet that we were talking about earlier with Tamagotchi or Pokemon and all these kinds of things. Why is that the story you guys wanted to tell?
Yeah, so like we mentioned before, we had that just super basic idea to start of just like, what if your Tamagotchi neglected? But then obviously we wanted to hook it around a big emotional component, and so we were talking, and we really wanted to tie it back to trauma at the end of the day. And so Kit, the main character, is dealing with the death of his father, and he's trapped in grief. And his mom, who's also trapped in grief, is dealing with it by just overworking and not paying attention to him. So that's why he's so lost and neglected. And he finds this creature, and it's kind of everything he wants at the time. He needs a friend, he needs comfort, he needs this. But then the creature, we will discover slowly as it goes on, is also has its own trauma and has dealt with its own things in the past. And so they both have similarities there. And then what they do from that is it's kind of the story and journey for both of them across the miniseries.
Yeah. And actually, that's one of those things I think was a good advantage for us coming from having a lot of film and television experience. Is it's very easy in the comic space for me to get lost in the world building and like this amazing world, but like it was really had to be about the characters. You had to be emotionally invested in the characters very quickly and really believe the journey that they're on. And I think that that was a good balance between that and having no budget to say whatever we wanted.
There's a built-in issue there. That is, if you can do anything, where does it end? You can do anything. I have done projects that I thought were very extreme, and we published them, and some of them did very well. Breathtaker, for example, and yet I could never get that adaptation of Mein Kampf off the ground for some reason, and you folks have worked there. DC wasn't interested in that. Never figure out why.
I also want to take a minute and talk about Daniel HDR and Pete Pantazis and Pat Brousseau. I mean, they all did a fantastic job, especially in the first issue that I've seen. What was that? What type of communication do you guys have with Daniel in terms of how you wanted to express it? What did he ask? Did you guys have a rapport back and forth as the pages were coming in? How'd that work for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we talk to him literally every day.
Awesome.
It's all by email because he lives in Brazil, so we got time differences. But he's wonderful to work with. Which is really funny, which we didn't even realize, is back in the day, one of his first actual published comic projects is Digimon, which has.
Oh, really? I did not realize that. That's funny.
Which is great, but I knew him. He had done some work for me long time ago, and then has done stuff for DC and stuff along the way. And his manager is Joe Prado, who has worked with a ton, both as an artist and inker and a manager. And we deal with it. We chat with him every day. He's wonderful. He does designs for all the characters. He does layouts for every page, so we go through those. He'll often add a bunch of scenes and panels and stuff that makes it even stronger than what we had in the script, which is important. And
I don't know about all comic companies, but I feel like because Panic is a new, smaller company, independent, we have a little more flexibility and interactivity there. I mean, everyone's a seasoned veteran in the industry, so I feel like more involved in the process than I've heard other comic creators have been in their own process. So I was like, it's really nice to have that back and forth daily. I can just watch it all happen and voice opinions and concerns as needed, and not feel like I've been out of the loop on some of it. You know what I mean? It's a very family of people at Panic that we can kind of all communicate.
Actually, you have a good opportunity here. Every company, every new company evolves into a bureaucracy.
Yeah.
It's the only way you can keep your brain straight. I hate bureaucracies. I loathe bureaucracies. The cool thing about starting your own company, being there from the ground up, you get to create your own bureaucracy. So at least thank you. So at least your bureaucracy will be more likely to fit your needs and desires. And then you get amazed that so many other people are on that same bandwagon. It's a great feeling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I know bureaucracy. Before I was in the entertainment space, I was in the tech space, and it was like working for massive corporations like Verizon, like Fortune 5 companies, and the level of bureaucracy was phenomenal. So this is like the polar opposite of that, which is fantastic.
Well, the scariest thing about working at DC is that it's very, very bureaucratic. You don't know who's running things or why, because that keeps on changing. And everybody's frightened. Oh, we can't do that, because it'll look bad and management will come down on us and stuff. And sometimes that's the right thing, knowing when to how to call that. Nope, that's going to bring the roof down. That's going to change the medium. You need a fighter for that. It's easier to fight within a smaller company.
Yes, and especially DC with the Warner Brothers Discovery oversight, it kept getting more and more.
Were you there when Discovery was involved?
I was there for many, many, many regime changes, including that one. Yes.
Boy, I can't keep.
You were in the film side there when that happened.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was there. I was there for that. AT&T as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was there for the AOL stuff. Maybe not. It's so weird. It's a strange company, and they keep on selling it to other people who operate it more strangely. They maintain the inefficiencies, but add their own unique stupidity to the process. And like 2 weeks ago, they decided, Warner Discovery, whatever they're calling it this week, decided to split into two companies.
Yep.
Okay, fine. So every 2 years, we change ownership of DC more frequently than some people at DC have changed their underwear.
No, those people are dead.
Comment on that one, but yes.
Those people are dead.
But there's other people now who are wondering if I was talking about them.
I didn't realize you were talking about a specific person. But
No, I wouldn't do that.
He isn't, but he could be.
Right.
That's the curse of these companies, though, is like if you keep changing and reorganizing, whether it's an acquisition or you restructure constantly, you never give the people enough time to get the ground under their feet under whatever the newer structure is or regime, and really like get going, because they also, you've taught them like, well, I really shouldn't try super hard to get going in one direction, because in 6 months they're going to reorg me again. And it's just, I've seen that so many times in the tech universe, and it's the same thing in the big corporations, the studios. Like, you guys got to like let people get going and make something happen. This process takes time. You can't just every 2 years is too short. You can't keep changing things that fast.
Yeah, we built so many plans, like long-term plans, that would just get killed 6 months later. So none of them ever really saw fruition. Mm-hmm.
I know. You can publish books about what could have been.
Mm-hmm. There have been books published about what could have been.
Yeah. Well, it canceled Comic Cavalcade, which was the first DC book I ever edited.
Mike, I want to turn back to you a little bit, just because these guys are in a place where you were. When you were.
Well, no, I was in New York.
Well, no, you were
from
in
New York.
Chicago, actually. You were in Evansville. But when you were in Evansville, and you were starting first, which became a hugely important and successful, company from the beginning, did you want tight communication between creative partners? Was that something that you encouraged? And
Yes.
did it change when you moved back to DC? Obviously it's harder to do at a larger company, but is that something that you always encouraged as an editor?
I did it at DC because before I went there, my soon-to-be boss, Mr. Giordano, was asked that question almost in those very words. And he said, no, you can't get away with anything, but you can get away with a lot more than you used to be able to. You can do almost everything you've done and do new stuff. I thought, wait a moment. So I took the shot because at least I knew the freelancers would get paid on time, and brought an awful lot of my First Comics friends along with me. And we did a good job at DC. We did a good job at First Comics. I could die happy.
That's fair. That's fair. I like the idea that you guys are talking about the way that's the way that Panic is working. I think that I feel that the best comics that I read and that I encounter are ones where there's a high level of collaboration. As opposed to someone just getting a script and then they're going to draw the pages and then they're going to hand it off to a colorist and then they don't see it again until it's in print. And then when it's all done, that's when the writer sees it again. I like the fact that people are trying to come together to build something together. It is a collaborative medium, as we say all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of collaborating, you have two fantastic covers for issue 1. And I especially like this Tony Fleece one. I love Tony. This is hilarious. And how did that work with you guys? In both this and Dustin's on the first one, right? So Dustin Wynn is on the A cover, and Tony Fleece is on the B cover. What was that like to get these, covers out there?
Yeah, I mean, since Tony's is on the board here, we'll talk about that one first. But
okay.
But obviously, Pokemon has had many games over its years. It has hit multiple generations, and so as a fan, I thought it would be awesome to do an homage cover to the game. So this one's based on the original Pokemon Yellow, the Pikachu version, of course. And from there, actually, each issue is going to be based on a different Nintendo system's Pokemon game. So there's a Game Boy Color one, which obviously won't be called Game Boy Color. there's a Nintendo DS. It goes up all the way up to, it'll go up to Switch, but it's one for each system. It actually worked out perfectly.
Well,
there's obviously more games than that, but it ended up being one per system. So
did Tony do all of them? Is that the plan?
Yes, Tony's doing all of them. He's got two of them are completed, but he'll have them all.
That's great. So those are going to become very valuable as a set.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I think people are going to want to collect them all, as we say, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
Collect them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tony obviously is so great with animals and stuff from his own great books. So.
Yep. Absolutely. I love that sentiment. I don't want to. He's a fantastic artist in general. Like, I think I love his stuff that he does with animals and all of that stuff too. But like the modern day stuff in Local Man that he drew was really, really high quality comic art. I loved it so much. Dustin Wynn on your A cover. I mean, that's a big one, right?
Yeah. So Dustin, I go back. Actually, one of the first books I edited at DC was the Superman Batman arc he did with Alan Burnett.
Okay.
With the New Gods. Actually, it's Speaking of new guys, there's Orion over there.
Nice.
So
I have one
so
behind
known
me
him
too.
for years, and we became great friends. And he was actually the first person I reached out to about doing a cover for us. I was hoping
good.
he'd do the whole book, but obviously he's a very busy man.
Sure. He's also expensive.
Yes, that too. But his watercolor stuff is obviously incredible, and we're super grateful to have him. Yeah, and we just gave him the basic idea of like, here, there's a cute version and the evil version, and what can you do for us?
Cute, evil, come see, come saw.
As you guys wrote this, and as you were coming through, what was the thing that was there something where you guys butted heads and you're like, I think we should do it this way, I think we do it that way, and how did you resolve your co-writing?
Good question. Doug, was there anything that we battled on for a bit? I honestly don't remember.
I don't think it was a lot of battling. I mean, we were both hopped up on so much coffee at the Starbucks that like things were going so fast. I don't think we had time to argue. No, it was actually really, really great to work together. I mean, the only things that really were like slightly like that were just things I didn't understand how something worked. And Adam and I would talk about it, and then I understand by the end of the conversation. So, I mean, the learning curve was a part of it, but I mean, for all of this, I mean, those covers and such, like I'm coming into this new, but I'm getting the benefit of everyone around me is like an industry expert. So I don't have to learn from my mistakes. These guys will make sure the mistakes don't happen. We can't just hit the ground with something quality.
That's fair.
And I'm really big on comic book formatting, making sure the page turns are on the right pages, and you're building big splash pages, and having the big like moment at the end where it's like, oh, I can't wait to pick up the next issue. Like that's the stuff I grew up with, and that's the stuff I love so much, and always make sure is in everything I work on.
Back in the day, DC had 2 public conferences where we we got industry veterans to come up there and do a lecture. And the first of those was Will Eisner, because the first of those should be Will Eisner.
Agreed.
And Will just beautifully explained all of the techniques that they developed out of whole cloth back in the late 30s and early 40s that we've taken for granted ever since. And sometimes we forget, and sometimes we just don't know. Little things. Make sure that the reader always has a reason to turn the page.
Yep.
Wow, that's the best advice I've ever heard in my life in terms of producing comics. It's astonishing. Maybe it's just because now I'm, this old geezer, but I'm thinking, well, the cool part was going to conventions which were just small enough to actually get advice from these great people, and then to go, if you got a job in the business, to go back to the office and learn even more. I learned so much from Joe Orlando, who ran that custom comics department back in the day. There's more that, when Joe Orlando died, he took tons of comics technique knowledge with him. We got to grab it while we can, which means that you guys are going to have to share it pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you guys, first of all, you said you've finished writing the first 6 issues. It says I'm looking here. It says series 1. Are we thinking you have ideas for series 2?
Oh, yeah.
We have ideas for a whole trilogy at least.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. And now I'm also curious about the way Panic is working. Are these going to be is it monthly issues then collected into a trade? Is that how you're going to do it, or is there different time frames?
So all of our books in the foreseeable future are all miniseries, and then they'll be collected. There'll be some sort of gap where you can purchase that collection, get get to read it, get some new readers that way, and then we'll start another mini series, assuming the first one was successful afterwards.
Sure, that's
Right.
a fairly standard business model. It makes a lot of sense, especially today.
It's also very effective because if for whatever reason you lose somebody in the creative team, at least you have a natural break.
Yes.
And, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adam, please.
I was just saying, totally. And these days it takes a lot longer for people to finish issues, so it's hard to maintain a monthly comic book for sure.
That's right. Today, Marshall Rogers would be considered fast.
What was his? I actually don't know. I didn't know he was slow back. What was his speed back in the day?
His girlfriend, with whom he lived at the time, came to me one day and said, "How does Marshall earn a living?" And I wanted to say, "Well, you should know better than me. You live with him." But instead I said, "What do you mean?" And he could finish a page in about 3 days. There's a lot of work that goes into his stuff.
Yeah, that's a long time back then for sure.
But yeah, unless you're Brian Bowen, that was a long time. And she didn't know. She couldn't understand it. Take jobs from Neil Adams, because he had his drawing board at Neil's studio. And I said, "No, I don't think Neil has time for Marshall." So I never quite understood that. It was an embarrassing position to be put in. You think about Jack Kirby, 2 books a month. You think about Steve Ditko, 2 books a month, maybe 3. We once called Steve for an emergency 6-pager. We had it overnight.
Wow, that's amazing.
We had it overnight.
It's such an interesting portion of this industry that there is this. There are people who are much faster than others. I had this conversation with Walter Simonson earlier this year. We were talking about the Titans and X-Men crossover, which is one of probably the best intercompany crossover ever.
Yes.
And it's odd that he drew that. He's only ever drawn 1 issue of the X-Men. Other than that, but his wife was the editor, so there's that. But
and he was Walter Simonson.
No, it wasn't that. It was because Paul Smith was on at the time.
No, I meant the crossover.
No, so Paul Smith was on the X-Men book at the time, and it was Marvel's turn to do the creative team on the crossovers. And there was no way that Paul was going to be able to do what he was doing and things. So they had everybody else on the team, Terry Austin and colorist and letterer, and Chris was going to write it, but they needed a different penciler. And so that's why Walter stepped in. Apparently also there was a fight over who the villain was going to be. And Walter was adamant about it not being Trigon. But he was stupid.
He looks stupid. Yeah, I don't want to draw him.
I don't want to draw him. I want to draw Darkseid. And Len Wein was not willing to give in on Darkseid until Marv offered up Deathstroke as the intermediary to Darkseid. These are the things. These are the great stories about comics that you hear. Those things that you're like, oh, how did this get made? Well, that's just how it got made. And soon, someday somebody will be like, well, why did these guys make this story? Or how did it work? I think again, from the beginning, we're super excited about this. I think it's really well done. I think that your story is well laid out. I mean, you guys definitely know what you're doing. Or at least Doug does now.
Yeah, it's no matter how old you are or what you've done beforehand, when you finish your first major project in comics, you have learned a lot. So much that you may be a completely different type of professional than you were when you started. It's amazing how much you learn so fast.
Yeah. He got the full boot camp.
Yeah.
And
Oh, there's a gun to your head, but
yeah, comics are so interesting too because you're like you mentioned before, where it's like you're writing descriptions for everything that's happening. Like, so you're actually adding so much more than if you were to write for TV or film or anything of that nature, where it's just dialogue with a few descriptions of what the characters are doing, but not what's actually not what they're thinking, not their emotions going through their heads. That's not included in TV and film scripts, but it's very important in comic scripts.
Yeah, I'm still learning because Adam has to help me every time when the rough layouts come in. I'm like, I don't understand what I'm looking at.
What are these people supposed to be?
have you ever seen Walt Simonson's layout? You'd quit the business. You would quit the business, Doug. Right there. You say, I can't do this. I'm out of here. I'm going to flip burgers. Screw this. It's but
he also wouldn't show you his rough though.
I mean, if he's inking it, he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. And then, I don't think I ever got to chatting about our letterer and colorist, but Peter Penthazis is our colorist who's doing phenomenal work, and we really well. First of all, I used to work with him back in the day. He did Green Lantern core for me, which obviously had because we introduced all the colored cores, and so there were all these different colors to handle and constructs and everything, and so
he's great.
So we gave him a lot of there was a lot of challenges with the book because we were establishing just things we've never really seen before. So we have things such as we'll have a panel that's the same panel. There's two panels next to each other, but one's the real world, one's like the guy looking through it through VR or AR or something.
Yeah, that was great. That was really well done.
Well, thank you. There's a few of those throughout the series, which are fun. I think work really well. And again, that's something cool that I think only works in comics, right? Like I don't know how often they'll have two images next to each other of the same thing in a film or TV show or something. So we really wanted to utilize the medium. But yeah, we challenged them with that. We challenged them with these glitch type effects of like the creature freaking out and having some memories appear in its head. Even just the coloring of those panels that are in AR or VR. We made him go through a couple rounds, but he really, really hit a homer. So we love what he did.
And all of our comics are very different and very distinct. Like the three launch titles. I mean, we're very colorful because T.A.M.A. It makes a ton of sense to be very colorful. Black Diamond is a little more minimalist, and Savager is its own entity. And all the artists and colorists have been fantastic for all of them. So it's really good to see the differences. I'm like, we couldn't do T.A.M.A. like the other two were done, but I think we all landed perfectly.
Yeah, and you guys.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
You go, Mike.
Wasn't there a Western hero named Black Diamond, Lev Gleason, published back in the early 50s? I have this heavy recollection of that. But I'll call up Roy Thomas afterwards or something.
Don't get us in trouble. No, it's based on the I'm actually not a skier, but the Black Diamond is a type of ski course. I think it's the hardest type of course you could.
Yeah, I've broken enough bones without having to ski.
So no interest. I left upstate New York to go to warm climates. I don't want to go back.
Really? I live in Connecticut in Fairfield County, and I miss snow.
I missed the first being in LA now. I missed, and from New York, I missed the first snowstorm, just the first one, because it's always fun and feels magical. But then after that, it just becomes a pain in the ass to be shoveling.
In Albany,
it's less of a pain. I'm sorry.
Doug, I was going to say, in Albany, there was more than one time where I started digging out my car on the street, and then only to discover that wasn't my car because there was so much snow. I don't need that.
See, I grew up in Chicago. I'm used to that.
Oh.
We put kitchen furniture out to save the parking spot in front of our apartment house after we dug out our car, and that's illegal. There you go. Thank you.
What publisher?
It's a public domain character. It was Lev Gleason.
It was Lev Gleason. Yeah. Did John Severin work on that?
He might have. It's created by William Overgaard.
Oh, that's interesting. The newspaper strip guy. Interesting. Odd that just popped up in my brain.
That is weird.
Yeah, but
My
Anyway,
version of Pop Tarts.
but it's interesting that I wanted to talk about Pat Brousseau. I'm sorry. I want to his work. First of all, he's absolutely one of the best. There are a handful of really top level letterers in the business, and he is in that handful. And one of the things I love about him is he has this, besides being excellent at his craft, he has this incredible love for the structure of comics, right? Like he just loves the way things about how comics should be, and he did a great job in this book. Absolutely.
Yeah, we were super fortunate to get him. I worked with him back at DC, of course, back in the day as well, and used to play softball with him too. We had a DC softball team.
That's
a story for another time. But he crushed it, and we gave him some interesting, unique challenges too, where the creature makes these weep sounds, but and then he had created something, and we're like, let's have the cute version of it, but then there's also like, once it turns into the darker, more sinister side, there should be a sinister version to that. And then obviously all of the sound effects and things of that nature that he built are just phenomenal. And
there was a lot for him to do.
Yep. And the other thing I actually learned, because again, it had been a bit since I was a comic editor. As an editor, you used to balloon all the issues where you draw the circles and the pointers, and then the letters dive in. And now with the more digital age, where everyone's working at home and no one's really handling everything, the letterers just do it all themselves now.
I used to enjoy doing balloon placements.
It was peaceful.
But before I did them, I hated it because it was so hard. And then one day, this is after First Comic Show, I was at DC. We were doing one of those weekly editorial staff meetings, which I considered to be a 2-hour version of the plague. And I would sit across from Mike Carlin, who was smart enough and funny enough to bring a stack of pages with him, and he'd do the balloon placements during the editorial meetings. And I would watch him do that. And Mike is great at that. I'm sure he still is. It's just totally intuitive. I mean, you see, left to right, up to down. Okay, fine. But it's really a lot more complicated than that. And I walked out of those editorial conferences and editorial meetings a better editor, but not because of the editorial meetings.
Right? It's learn from the folks around you, and then both the good and the bad. That's what I always say.
Mike was such a natural. It started out as like watching somebody do like those plate stunts, on the stick. You keep them all. It's like, wow, this guy's amazing. And then you look over it again and you go, see what he did? This is how we learn, folks. This is how we've been learning all our lives. It's how puppies learn.
Did you actually, now I'm curious, did you, when everything was done on boards, pre-digital lettering, and I know lettering was done on the boards, did the editors still draw the balloons on the board itself?
No.
Okay.
No. We indicated them on photocopies.
Gotcha. And then the letterer would get the photocopies with the boards. And
yeah, also editors tended, at least in those days, to work with a couple of letterers that they were really close to, that they've been working with for a while. And if I screw up, like as if that never happened, people like John Workman and Steve Haney, they'd cover for me. They'd fix it. That was great.
That's awesome.
One of the kind of coming back to the concept of the collaborative nature of this industry, and how that, you can, one person can do it. They can. Those people either do it for one of two reasons. One, narcissism, and two, finance. Right? So hopefully it's the finances. But the fact is that you have a group of people here who come together, and you have to rely on them. And in film, obviously, there's a much larger cast and crew and things like that. But when you're down to this small group of people, plus editorial and management of the company, how's that transition been, especially for you, Doug, where and you, Adam, because you've been working for a big publisher, both in comics and film, coming down to a much smaller company. Is that something that you're enjoying with Panic?
I definitely am. I mean, from the big tech corporations and stuff to small, nimble, we can kind of do things the way we want to. It's been fantastic. And there's you don't have that scenario where there's too many cooks in the kitchen, or someone you don't even know has weighed in and then told someone to do something a different way. You don't even know that happened, and you see it later. We're small enough that we see all the changes, and whether we like them or not, we're all part of the process. So I definitely like that.
And for me, the collaboration is so important. I mean, I prefer writing with Doug, for instance, than writing alone, just to be able to bounce ideas back and forth each other. I think at the end of the day, the best idea needs to win. So that just creates better content. And so as an editor and then a development exec on movies, that was our jobs. We were trying to get the writers to create better stuff and give them suggestions and ideas, and for them to have a sounding board and someone to lean on. So to me, this is more of the same, but better, like you guys said, where it is easier to have a smaller group that's all aware of what the project is, with everybody also the same goals in mind, and wanting to create the best thing possible. While I feel like sometimes when there's too many cooks, some people have their own for instance, political wise, right? Potentially one department is spending money on this thing, so they have the final say on everything. Or there's an actor or a piece of talent that it needs to work best for them, but that doesn't mean that it works best for the story, right? And so at the end of the day, we want to create the best story possible.
Right. You have to focus on that. It always has to be the storytelling. It always has to be the story. There's nothing more important than that. Comics, for the first 20 years of our medium's existence, comics were owned by mom and pop type of operations, which is the more polite way of referring to cockroach capitalism. And the owners, the publisher, the editors, whatever, they were there and they were involved. They didn't have as much of a bureaucracy. They did have more of an ego, but they had less of a bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. And that's how this medium evolved. In the mid-'60s, DC was sold to Kinney, which became 4,000 subsequent organizations, each one being sold. If not for that, I think freedom, even though sometimes, people really were taking advantage of that first generation of publishers, I don't think the medium would have evolved the way it has, if not for the fact that it started out by a bunch of guys just trying to make some money during the Depression.
Yeah. As a quick aside, developing with Adam has been especially fun when we get done, we write something, we're like, okay, now let's go back. How can we make this scene more awful, more horrific, or more right. Going back to that. And then we spend all this time, at a public cafe talking about things, and you're like, if anyone's overhearing this conversation,
one of the
they're gonna call somebody.
Okay, I've got a story for you.
Oh.
Every time I say that, Bob's sphincter muscles just tighten. I was plotting a story with John Ostrander, my dear friend. We were at a restaurant and in Norwalk, Connecticut, which is no longer there. And we're there during lunchtime. And we plotted this Black Hawk special that included our takes on the assassinations of both Kennedys and everybody else who was being killed around that time. So we're discussing it, and we're discussing it very heatedly because John and I both can be, let's call it, passionate. And we're discussing it, and we're having a swell time, and we're doing this larger-than-life story. Of course, it's the Blackhawks. It's the 60s. We're covering the entire 60s, and it's conspiracy-filled. And people who were sitting around us got visibly nervous over what they were overhearing. And I love that story. Mike Vosberg drew it. It was just a gorgeous story. But doing it was even more fun.
You were going to say something, Adam.
I was just going to say that, yeah, I'm so big on structure and whatnot with comics. So I always make sure that we always do page breakdowns for each issue before we even start scripting it. Sure. And that lets us go back through and be like, oh, do we have enough scares? Is there enough things happening in each like quarter of the book kind of thing? Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
When I edit things as well, I try to create what I would call the beat sheet, where you what you get the flavor of the page, the temperature of what's going on, so that and where that is in relation to where the pages are changing and turning and stuff like that. So you're not changing temperature in the wrong spot and stuff like that. So it's all important. It's important to how that you structure something. At the end of the day, you have this 22 page, story that works, right? And to have that and know that you did it right is fantastic. And you guys did it right. I really, again, I enjoyed issue 1. I'm looking forward to issue 2. I expect it to be readily available in my inboxes as things go forward. I will yell at Chris if I isn't. What do you have more of this? Is there other things you guys are working on?
Yeah, I mean, we do have a couple other projects that we hope to put out through Panic in the future, but we're just making sure we get this one out first, and then hopefully can announce some more things soon that are also tied to this project. But then, yes, we have a few other pretty exciting ideas after that we want to do. I think we have Doug? We have at least 3 other ones that are like fully baked ideas, and then we have a plethora of other things that are just floating around.
And I think it's going to become a timing issue because like Panic has such a good slate now, and the next wave is going to be fantastic. You're going to hear a lot more about that at San Diego Comic-Con, and it's like, okay, we gotta get these in the roster before some other huge project jumps in too.
That's true. It's interesting. There are only a certain limited number of slots at most of the publishing companies. Whereas, the big guys, they can always add another book or subtract another book from their schedule if need be. You don't quite have that luxury when you're doing what we'll call independent comics, which is a bad term.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
I don't like that term either, personally.
I started hating that term? It happened way back in the first comics days at the Buyer's Guide. So Maggie Thompson, this is on you. You published a piece which talked about all of the independents. You listed the independents, and on that list was Disney Comics. This is long before they owned Marvel. Disney Comics, among others, but Disney Comics, far and away, is not an independent publisher. What you mean is publishers whose names are not DC or Marvel.
Yep.
Or, so perhaps, publishers I like.
It's fair.
we got you here, and Chris served you up. So there's another aspect to Panic as it was launched, that you're not just you're not Panic Comics, you're Panic Entertainment, and Adam, you're on, the film ish and other side of media, for Panic. What's that process been like, and where are you guys in that development cycle?
Yeah, so we have a whole we built a portfolio book with all of our IP, and we actually started chatting with different studios and whatnot of that nature, and are slowly getting some things moving. Obviously, everything takes time in that world, and a lot of times they want to see completed projects and whatnot beforehand. But we're actually very fortunate to have was it yesterday, Doug? I think have announced that T.A.M.A is actually optioned as a live action film. We announced it through Fangoria yesterday.
Oh, that's fantastic. I hadn't heard that, but that's fantastic. That's
cool.
great.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're slowly making some moves. We had there's already a bunch of interest in Black Diamond as well, and I'm sure Savager will be next. But the goal is to make great comics. We have to make great comics first. If they're not amazing,
that's
comics,
right.
They'll never be anything else.
Long after the movies are gone, before they come back, there's comic books. Links at all. This is such an exciting time. I've been there a couple times, and I love it. I really love the energy and the high wire act that you guys are in the middle of. Enjoy every moment of it, gentlemen. It's really fun. It's not easy. It's not always going to work. Not everything works.
Yeah. It's okay to take some chances. Smart chances.
That's right. That's right. It's you don't get anywhere unless you take some chances, particularly in the creative arts. You never know what people are going to like. You never know what people are fed up with, are tired of already. Everybody hated CBS 50 years ago for canceling all of their hillbilly shows, when in point of fact, it was really clear that the audience was beginning to shrink seriously, and there was no future in it for them. Is that good? Is that bad? Well, it's terrible if you're one of the actors who wants to do this for another 5 years, but you got to do something new every once in a while. So you do All in the Family. That's how you grow.
For us, I mean, with Panic, I mean, horror and dark sci-fi, we mentioned at the beginning, like there's so many different things you can do there. But also, I feel like horror never goes out of fashion. It changes what the interesting thing is, what's cool. Vampires are cool now, and then they're not cool, and yada yada. But like, I think horror kind of like is everlasting. So you can kind of do really good things in this space and just keep going.
And then on the media side, it's some of the cheapest content to make, right? Like but budget wise, it's much bigger than making a comic book, but you can do a smaller budget horror movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Many of our friends have.
I mean, and we kind of mentioned this earlier, just to come back to it, because you brought it back up again, but horror as we know it has kind of started, was 100 and almost 200 years ago with Mary Shelley, and from that moment it has evolved, as opposed to being created or stopped or fall. So there's always different things. It's evolved, that it's larger. There are larger aspects. There's sci-fi, and there's dark sci-fi, and there's horror, and there's blood, gore horror, which can be there, but there's also dark and quiet and just scary horror things. And there's plenty of things. And it seems like you guys know that, and that's part of the idea about how you're going to fill all of those voids, all of those areas. And it's great. I'm excited for it. I think that you guys have a good plan, and you're executing it.
Bob, you mentioned something that I want to jump in on, which means I have to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Please do.
Of all the different forms of horror that you just listed, by far, in my opinion, the bloodiest form of horror is called politics. You were saying.
That's fair. That is fair. You know, when I told Mike that you guys were going to be on the show, I did mention your last name, Doug, and you know you're in comics now, and there's a predecessor with that name who was a friend of ours, and you're familiar with Martin Pasko. He was a writer for DC for a long time, and also in film as well.
And
But you're the only other Pasko that I know.
Yeah,
interesting. It's a very
Not related. You're not
spelled the
related.
same.
That was not his real name.
Oh,
that's true. He was adopted. It wasn't his birth name. And he has the same birthday as I do. He was a couple years younger, but same birthday.
But yeah, that was one of the interesting things about this. I want to thank you guys for being here. I know that Doug, you have some stuff to do, but I want to remind everybody that T.A.M.A comes out on August 6th at your comic shops or wherever you get comics. I highly recommend it. It was really fun read. Next issue will be out after that, and we'll, you know, you guys are welcome to come back. We'll have, you know, season 2. We'll come and talk about it or whatever else you want. We had a great time with you guys here. Are you going to be, Doug? We kind of talked earlier. Adam, are you going to be at San Diego this rest of this week?
Yes, I'll be there as well. Do you mind if we do a couple quick shout outs?
Yes, absolutely.
Please.
Oh, awesome.
Please.
Yeah. So first off, on Monday is FOC final letter cutoff for T.A.M.A #1, the second printing.
Okay.
Exciting. We already got a second printing, and then also for Black Diamond #1. So, which I do think people are going to be blown away by that. It's by Brendan Columbus and Danilo Beirut. And then Comic-Con wise, we have Panic has 2 panels. So on Thursday from 4 to 5 p.m. is one, and then on Saturday we're going to be revealing a lot of our next wave of books, which will include David Dasmalchian's on that panel, Rodney Barnes, and that one is Saturday at 7 p.m. I believe.
Yep. And also on the 6th, we'll be at Golden Apple. Anyone in LA doing a live signing?
Ah, cool. God, I haven't been there in 1,000 years.
Giving you a heads up to book your flights now.
That's
seriously, thank you.
I will
for having us. Like this is awesome. It's always fun just chatting comics too. Not even just about our book, just chatting in general.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. I will try to be there at the Thursday one and then run immediately to my panel half hour later. So we'll see if we can see you there. Everybody, thank you guys for being here. It was great having you.
So much. Thank you so much. Best of luck. The guys who've already had the best of luck. I envy you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And hopefully we'll have many more volumes to come to talk about.
There you go. There you go. Great. Thanks, gentlemen.
Wow, that was
Mr. Bob, you have yourself a wonderful trip.
I will.
I'm the only thing I'm sad about not going to San Diego, other than seeing a few friends, is the fact that I don't get to see your expression when you get there.
Yeah, I'm it's gonna be crazy.
I love it. I will
try to take as many pictures as I can. And we'll have, well, the good news is that we're not going to have a show next week because there's a lot of things are coming in place and I probably will be barely alive and awake. So we won't be here next week, folks.
I'm actually bidding against it.
I'll be here, but I'll be alive, and I don't know if I'll be awake, and we definitely won't be live next week.
Right.
But the week after that, we're going to have a show. We'll have a show on August 5th. Tom Zoller is going to be on, and we hope to have Paul Tobin as well, they are working together on the new Angry Birds book that is being kickstarted. So they're going to be on in a couple of weeks, and you can ask Tom how it was because I'll be with him most of the weekend. So
I will be back here with you 1 day after
Yeah,
My monumental birthday.
It's monumental. It is.
It is monumental.
It is gemstone like.
It is the day I become officially older than shit.
Well, we will have. Well, I'll have Carrie, Sherry, make a cake and we'll eat it in front of you.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. As always, please like, follow, subscribe to wherever you're watching this. We love having you here. We love talking to you about stuff. We love you being involved. We love bringing stuff like this to you. So we will see you soon, a couple weeks. Please stay tuned to popculturesquad.com, Pop Culture Squad on all social medias, because I will be posting as much as I can while I'm at San Diego, and we'll try and keep you in the loop.
Folks, once again, thank you for being here. Please pay attention to the Kickstarters and the various funding programs that are being enacted by some of our guests, most of our guests. You might want to back them, and they can use your help and your support. So keep an eye out for that.
All right, thanks. See you guys later.
Take it easy, folks.
This has been a production of the Pop Culture Squad Network. PopCultureSquad.com. How do you nerd?